It's a thing.
It's absolutely a thing. Welcome to Divine Timing. When it's time to do your healing work, things will line up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, it's been a while since we've done a parenting through the veil or beyond the veil session. Through the veil.
Pick your preposition.
Whichever one works for you.
There's a veil.
And we're going past beyond through to it.
We're on both sides.
Yes.
Parenting means you're on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, so we've actually tried to schedule this several times, and for whatever reasons it wasn't lining up. And what kept calling me to schedule was I've had this repetitive trigger with particularly my oldest, and it's actually something that brought me to you to begin with. And there was a part of me at one point that was feeling like, well, gosh, for all the work I've done, I'm still at
next layer.
I was like, gosh, I'm still at square one here. I did. So I moved beyond that. And then what happened was, as I continued to work with my stuff and continued to kind of go deeper into my stuff, another layer was revealed after the last time we tried to schedule and it didn't work. So, basically I butt heads a lot with my oldest, which, I know that that's because there's something in me that she's reflecting, that she's triggering. And I've recognized, and I know that people say that, you do this, it's a thing, but we do a lot of things that are things that it's just because it's a trigger, right? So like my oldest, I don't react to her the same way when she does very similar things as what my youngest does. And there's an energetic difference there between the ways that they approach these things, and specifically the ways that my oldest approaches getting the things that she needs and expressing herself really triggers me. And
perfect.
Yeah. So I'm
like certain words, or like
it's the energy around it. It's because honestly, like very clearly it's come to me that, my youngest expresses from her feminine very clearly, she's very much embodied in her emotions, and she expresses them that way. And my oldest is more like me, where and actually I just recently found out that my rising sign is an Aquarius. Oh, it's actually an incense, baby. You smell it? It's my incense. Does it smell good? Yeah. You can come over here. Do you want some? Here. There's more strawberries in the refrigerator. These ones aren't sweet. You want to take these and put them back in the refrigerator and see if they'll get a little sweeter, or you can eat them if you want to. So my oldest, I just recently found out that I'm a rising Aquarian sign, and it's so odd being a Piscean because I've had to work through actually releasing and expressing my emotions. They've been repressed. Mama, I kind of went toward that Aquarian repressing of some of the emotions.
I ate ice cream and I ate quick before it dripped.
Which one did you eat?
The orange one. It tastes very good.
You guys went and got popsicle? You silly gooses.
We just like them. They had to ask you because it was a surprise.
Oh, okay. You didn't have to ask me because it was a surprise. Okay, so mommy's gonna finish her appointment here. Okay, do you want to take those down and watch your wild crats?
I might turn it off.
Okay. Well, she doesn't have the remote. She can't turn it off. Go ahead. Okay, can you want to come sit here quietly?
Mm-hmm.
So what I've recognized is that my oldest, she is really, and she has been since she was born, she has not been as openly affectionate as it's always been a little bit more reserved and a little bit more, and that's just part of, she's an Aquarian, and it's just, it's part of her expression of self. But there was a specific time period that keeps coming back to me where after my second was born, I was so close to my oldest, and I just felt this heart connection so deeply with my oldest when she was born, and all the way up to this point where my second was born and I was feeling very overwhelmed, and I started really just losing it on my oldest and really just yelling at her, and there's this one specific time where I really feel like the relationship had been fractured at that point, and our relationship has really just never been the same since, and the connection has never been the same since, and I've seen that she's gotten more unsure of expressing herself and how to express herself, more shut down in that way. And it triggers me because I know that the same exact thing happened to me with my father.
Yeah.
He couldn't handle us expressing the emotion. He didn't know how to hold space for it. And so, the layer that was revealed to me around all of this recently has been in me feeling more into parenting from my feminine. What I realized is that I have been, I called it authoritarian parenting, but what it really is I was parenting from a very imbalanced masculine. And even when I balance that masculine, I'm still parenting a lot from my masculine, which I don't want to be doing. It doesn't feel good to me. And it doesn't feel good to the kids. And I want to, I've really been feeling into exploring more of parenting more from the feminine, from an embodied space, feeling those emotions more, expressing the emotions, holding the container for the emotions more. And I just have this kind of, goal or view of, we're all women. So, all three of us have the feminine spirit. And I feel like this one can really help in guiding us to the embodied expression of those emotions.
Thank goodness you were born.
Right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So much.
Isn't it interesting how that happens in families where
because I was, with Sakina, and I just kind of always saw myself as the one who, like, specifically, I was the mom. And it's so funny because Piscean women in general as parents are like, we have watery boundaries and we're just the doormat parent.
Oh, it's
right?
a mess.
And I'm not.
I'm
not at all. I was the authoritarian. When I say no, I mean no. And you're not going to get past that no by whatever cuteness that you have or whatever until this one came along. And this one just, like, I totally, I've recognized that parenting from my masculine, it's really helped me to see how the masculine and the feminine interact, because parenting from my masculine, when she comes at me with that naturally embodied feminine essence of what she's feeling and just vulnerably expressing, and it just totally melts me, and and not to say that I haven't yelled at her, but it's a very different dynamic because she reflects in that masculine, against that masculine so well that it draws it in, whereas my youngest expresses the same way that I do, so kind of shut down, and we butt heads a lot because we can't get into that feminine container. So
well, and I just want to back up before we move forward and acknowledge and honor, you were talking about, and this is important for parents to understand, that like shit's getting triggered in us, right? And really that's what it's all about. But it's also about how we trigger the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Or a specific kid, right? When we're talking about the one that is your biggest teacher,
Mm-hmm.
Honoring that being needs to be triggered by you in that way, right? So we can forgive ourselves for these, traumatic moments where we lost our shit and we repeated a pattern, that was something we knew we absolutely did not want to repeat.
Yeah.
And then
that was a layer I definitely had to work through also.
Yeah. And so let's just take a moment in the spirit of the feminine energy to honor, and forgive ourselves, and just take a moment of gratitude for the experience. This earth school is, and this parenting process, it's not all about, it is about fixing ourselves so that we can be better parents, but that's not all it's about. It's about their journey too. And so,
their experiences that they have to experience too, so that they can work through their things too.
Exactly. And thank goodness,
that was a huge thing, specifically around that breaking point. That was, that's a layer that and it's funny, I've returned to that moment many times in my inner journeys, feeling into what needs to be seen around it. And of course, the very first layer was that heartbreaking guilt of feeling like I destroyed my child, like feeling like I just broke her, and recognizing that it's a process. And, obviously she came to me as her parent for a reason, and, she has her own journey and her own wounds that she's going to take on. And who knows if she'll ever even, maybe she won't grasp onto this. Maybe we'll move through this and we'll heal that part and we'll help shift this. And there will be many other things that I never even thought of that she's grasped onto that she'll be working through. You just never know. But
that reminds me. Yes. One of my mentors always tells the story about how, she had this moment in her mind that she thought she had ruined one of her children. And, and so she asked him one day, he's, approaching 30, I think by now. She's like, what was the biggest moment of, in his memory of her biggest moment of, wounding her child? He was like, I don't even remember that. And then he had this big moment of what this defining, and then she didn't remember that, and they which was that, I think that's really interesting too. Just the whole, how the subconscious kind of will, who knows why they did, but then they talked about it and they remembered it, but they remembered it very differently.
Yeah. Well, and because of our different natures, I think, that's something that I never used to really put much weight in, because the Piscean description was never very accurate for me. But as I've gotten more to my core self, I can see where my moon and my rising and my sun signs all are so very accurate to the core essence of my expression. And it's so true that, I can recognize the Taurus energy now, and I can recognize the Aquarian energy now. And it's so true that there is this core essence of these things that we're more sensitive in this area or that area, just depending on, our core expression of self. So
yes, and it's why something that seems really minor to one person can be like the deepest wound another person ever could receive.
Yeah.
We can't judge each other's wounds and what has caused, our trauma, because it is bananas how differently these things can affect us. And there's so many.
We're all here on a different journey, right? With different wounds.
So many factors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank goodness the tools work across the board.
Yes. And it's, I posted just last night that wheel of the emotion wheel with the, different kinds of emotions and the different words to describe the nuance, of all the different emotions. And that is our key into the information that we need.
I actually saved that. Yeah. I keep meaning to print it out, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's a really good tool when you're working with somebody, and so many humans right now are so, we live in our heads, and can't describe their emotions. They can't even, how are you feel? I don't feel any kind of way about this, like, but using that with somebody that you're, trying to work through some issues with is really helpful.
Yeah.
To say, well, here, because when
Yeah.
you read it, you recognize it, and it's like, boom.
And you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And I love the way that it goes deeper and deeper, so you can really get to the core essence, because once you get to that core essence, then you can explore the situations around what triggered that,
Yes.
So,
And it's even interesting. Somebody even commented, how when you look at these kinds of arrangements of emotions, and it's all kind of based on frequency, right? So like different emotions have different frequencies, and so you can group them in certain ways, and people get triggered by the groupings. Like, why are shame and I don't know, guilt so close together? That's not one. Oh, what somebody said, judgment. Why was something and judgment so close together? And I just chuckled to myself.
Shame and judgment, maybe.
I don't remember what the other one was. It was judgment and something else. And so it was almost like, maybe, I don't know. There's, who knows?
They were just triggered by it because of their own.
It was like, she didn't say pissing me off, but she did, say, this is like triggering me.
Yeah.
And it's just
something to look at there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because they're, and it's true though, that at the bottom of all of the unwanted emotions is fear.
Yeah.
Always. Yep. And so when people say they're feeling one of those unwanted emotions, and I ask, well, what are you afraid of? Well, I'm not afraid of anything, but, related to this, but blah, 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 and so, but then you just keep peeling back those layers and you'll get to some fears. I promise.
A fear of separation, a fear of something. There's something. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Always.
Underneath the unwanted emotions.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm not sure exactly how to approach this, because I can see with her that me leaning into my feminine, and just in many areas of my life, I've been seeing that the next layer for me personally is feeling more deeply, feeling my emotions more deeply, allowing myself to be immersed in them, allowing them. And that's something that I've been working through for a long time. And I can feel that there's another thing there. But also that moment keeps coming back to me too, of where really our relationship was just never the same. And I feel like there's, a fracture that's happened there. So, there's my work, but I wonder if there's some kind of like relationship process that her and I need to go through to work past that, to kind of circle back to that, which is hard to do with her being 6 and particularly being an Aquarian. And she just,
well, and how old
I feel like
that moment happened?
Oh gosh, she won't even remember it. She was
right.
So
it's all about the subconscious. It's like all about programming the subconscious. And the unfortunate thing about humans is that, you can change your behavior and parent from a more, honoring her expression space and all of that stuff.
Hold on one second. Hey, sweetheart, don't go outside. Let me finish my appointment and then I'll go.
Okay, we're recording again. So what I was saying is, even when we change our behavior and actually succeed in responding differently and, being a different person with that person, they still think we're in their subconscious. We're still the same old person. So it takes either one, a lot of repetitions of responding differently, or luckily, you know about how to reprogram the subconscious. So, I mean, this isn't a nefarious, like, ooh, I'm going to reprogram my kid's subconscious. You do it with them and they're conscious of the process. I'm saying that for everybody watching, and because I know you know that. Yeah. But, it's a healing process to even talk about, like, it seems, you can say something like, it seems like you really feel, nervous about expressing yourself to me sometimes. And I want to change that, because I want you to feel comfortable expressing yourself with me. or whatever you just say honestly, like, this is what I've observed in our relationship, you say it on their level. And then I want it to be different. How can we make it different? And I mean, the jewels that come from those kinds of questions that we ask our children, like, how can we make it better? What can I do to make you feel more comfortable expressing yourself? What can I do to support you with XYZ? This is the pattern I'm noticing, and the best part about working with children and doing, energy psychology, and, and they can do it's a very simple process, right? To do these, you can either use yoga, or you can use, just like some of the level up ones, or whatever ones that that you've done with me. It's so easy for them to do it. They love to do the muscle testing. And when it's about them.
Right.
So yeah, I really feel like, and we can muscle test and see, that process of just saying, I want things to be different. And, and talk about, like, one time when I was really frustrated, and you were 2 years old, I yelled, and it seems like ever since then you've been, whatever, describe it, right? Talk about the event, bring it to her conscious mind.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear how it goes with you, just having these, and you can do it like once a week, once a week energy psychology date, and just keep working.
I feel like I've
whatever relationship pattern.
I've tried a couple times to kind of like, approach it that way. And it seems, and I know that I know that part of it is her Aquarian nature, that she's just already gotten so uncomfortable looking at, feeling about, talking about emotions. She just doesn't want to talk about it. She literally changes the subject, just wants to, like, I don't want to, she's okay talking about, I've been very open about when I'm working through things and what I'm doing. She's okay talking about that. But the second that I try to get her to feel into her body, or,
Okay. So with people like that, you have to talk about facts. You have to talk about, when I said this, you got mad. When you said this, I got mad and I started yelling. When, you have to just describe the patterns of behavior. Describe you have to first, because it's interesting, adults a lot of times will really resist talking about the emotions, but when it's a kid, same thing applies. You have to go at it from her perspective, from her, the shared reality that y'all have. So for her, she's disconnected from her emotion already, right? From a lot of reasons, not, mom can't take all the blame for anything,
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of it is she came in this way on purpose so that y'all could get triggered this way, so that y'all could work this stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just like any kind of teaching or any kind of communication. When you're trying to communicate with somebody, you got to find common ground. So did we ever do the rapport balance? I don't know. I don't think we did. I don't know if we did. I'm having a memory, but maybe that wasn't you.
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar to me.
We can't record it. It's a Psych-K balance, but that would actually, rapport balance is an appropriate balance for Heather to do to support this goal of better relationship with your daughter. I'm just assuming that goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's testing strong. And that is, so that's like a whole long balance that takes, I don't know, a while, maybe not an hour, but And it might, well, I don't know. Might be good to do with your daughter. We can muscle test later and see. But the whole premise of that balance is that if we don't have rapport with someone, if we're not sharing the reality, if we're not agreeing on the reality and talking about the things that we can agree on, that, you know, we're both experiencing, and the common things that we're experiencing, then communication is really difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, and I can tell you that it's an Aquarian thing, but also she definitely, I can already tell, experiences that she feels misunderstood, that she doesn't feel heard or seen the way that she's trying to be. So yeah, for sure. And I feel like, you know, with me having an Aquarian rising sign, that's something that I can actually identify with. And so it is something that we can create some rapport with, that we can actually come to a better understanding.
I think that
together.
balance will actually be huge in this process.
Yeah.
And just, you know, so you know what's coming, and for everybody watching, the rapport balance, it's about, so basically our 5 senses are the ways that we communicate with the world, right? And so we will have, most of us have a dominant one of the 5, and if you add emotions, that's 6, and there are more senses on top of all that. But in terms of interacting with our environment, for the most part, we take in information visually, auditory, kinesthetic, and then sometimes through smell and taste. And, you know, I think that we discount like the pheromones and the smell part of it a lot. That's really more powerful. We're just discovering how powerful that is. But so, you know, it's true that you can smell fear. And you can smell, you know, desperation, and, you know, some of these really powerful emotions. We're not, we've been gaslit for a long time saying, oh, you're just imagining that stuff is real, you can trust it. So we'll just say that for everybody. But the rapport balance is about, it's about well, learning how to communicate in a visual way, in a kinesthetic way, in an auditory way, like to include all of those, because those are the 3 main ones that we use. And then of course that wheel helps us with communicating in the emotional way, right? And we'll post, I guess I can just post a link to that post on the video, so that people can see this diagram of all the emotions. But it's so much about listening and observing the person that you're dealing with, and then communicating in the way that they will understand. And, you know, it can be frustrating. It slows it down a little bit, but it makes communication much more effective. So yeah, let's see. The most appropriate goal for Heather at this time is improving her relationship with her daughter, and that's testing strong. There's another goal that would be more appropriate at this time, and that's testing weak. Okay, so Heather needs to do the rapport balance first. So yeah, we can wait and do that another time, another day. And then let's see what we need to work on today. So the most appropriate approach to achieve Heather's goal today is energy psychology balances. We're not doing a regular energy psychology balance, it doesn't seem. I'm looking a traumatic moment forgiveness exercise. That's what sounds like we're doing. There's another process that would be more appropriate. Okay, that's testing week. So let's invite, oh yeah, we need to invite, is it Sakina?
Yeah.
Sakina's higher self to participate in this process. Okay, so we're gonna meet up with her higher self, just kind of open the door and start this process with her, and then so that you both can forgive yourselves. And of course, higher self is, like, of course,
I didn't even think about that because, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. I have been working a lot with her because I recognize how much we take on, the ways that our parents are able to show up for us. We think that that's all we deserve, right? You can't give me all the love that I need. You're not here for me the ways that I want you to be. And I guess that's all I deserve, right? So I've been working a lot with her on, you know what, mommy and daddy, we're not always able to show up and love you the way that we want to. We're not always able to show up and hold your emotions the way that we wish that we could. But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be treated exactly the way that you want to be treated, right? So I've been, kind of planting those seeds as much as I can. But I totally hadn't thought about that specific, the way that this keeps coming back to me. Children, and I know that children take on things and they make it their fault. They assume that, wow, if you're responding to me this way, it must be because I'm unlovable. It must be because there's something wrong with me. But I hadn't thought about that specific moment that she needs to go through and release that it's not her fault for that specific moment. So yes, that feels powerful to me.
Awesome. All right, so we'll just use kind of a visualization process, and I'll talk you through it, and we'll just see what comes of it.
Okay.
So you can relax. Heather needs to stay upright, so you can lie down or sit up, whatever's comfortable for you.
Okay. I'll just kind of lean back.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this is perfect that this is coming through during a parenting thing that we're recording, because it's such a powerful tool for, especially when our kids are little, or like, I have a child that can't communicate with words the way that most humans do. And so this has been a really powerful process, to connect with his higher self, and even the ones that can talk, carry on a conversation like this. The higher self process is helpful in so many different ways.
Well, particularly
we're recording it.
Yeah, I feel like particularly with, Sarah, who's not really old enough to really follow the conversation, or Sakina, who just would rather not even, dive in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely.
Okay. So it's safe and appropriate for me to be the surrogate for Sakina. Safe and appropriate for Sakina to have me be the surrogate. Okay. And it's safe and appropriate to do this process with Heather, her higher self, and Sakina's higher self. So all that's testing strong. And I think you already got that emotional feedback that, yeah, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you can just close your eyes and just begin to come into your body. Take a few breaths. This will be a fast process for Heather, but for anybody watching along, if this takes you a little bit longer, no worries. It takes practice sometimes to really get into the body and get into these, into this feedback.
All right. I'm good. You know what, actually, I felt guided to use my stone and just kind of place it on my womb space. And as soon as I closed my eyes, my energy just...
Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, let's just take, first of all, always good to begin with gratitude. So we're just going to move into that vibration of Gratitude for this moment, for this time and space, and the resources to do this work, to have this time to focus in this way and to do this healing for this family lineage, this family's pain patterns, trauma patterns, and how they ripple out for the rest of humanity as we do this healing work. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We just want to evoke the healing energy of unconditional love and divine light to protect and allow for the highest possible outcome, for the highest and best good of all involved. And only that. So yeah, I feel firmly in the bubble, that healing place, Isumatak, that sacred space where wisdom is revealed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just one more, thank you for the protection over the connection that we have between me, Heather, Sakina, and all the ancestors. I see this really reverberating back through the generations.
Yeah, this honestly, I was just having a conversation with Sakina the other night about, you know, she had said something about learning her behavior from us, and we were, like I said, she's okay diving into my stuff, and we had a conversation about how my dad used to show up and the things that I've learned and the ways that I've changed from him, just the ways that he was treated, the way that he treated us. And she was just like, wow, okay, you know, and it has been a long generational cycle of wounding around expressing feelings and being able to hold the container for those and having that connection. So
yes, thank you, thank you, thank you for this
yeah,
opportunity to heal this. And it's reverberating into the past, and then I can also see it moving so beautifully into the future. So just so much gratitude for this opportunity and for this healing space. So let's just move into your heart space, Heather, and go into that kind of place we've worked before, in that the corridor where we've met your higher self many times. So however that shows up for you, you can let me know, you know, when you're there. Let me know when you're
I'm being called to the right side, which always feels like the masculine side to me.
Yes. So just let me know when you're experiencing your higher self, how that's showing up. And for those watching at home, it can be in so many different ways. It might be, you know, a human representation, but it's sometimes our higher self comes to us in other symbols. So just open to receive, Heather, just first connecting with your own higher self.
Am I connecting with my higher self in the space behind the corridor, like behind the door, or am I connecting with myself before I walk through the door?
Wherever it happens. And yeah, and I didn't even know if we were going to go through a door today. I wasn't sure how. So I was just still kind of in the hallway. So if you're already into a room and
no, I think my higher self is like connecting outside of the room as like it feels like a light, like a guiding light. Yeah, it's feeling like it's actually feeling like a feminine presence, like a guiding light to kind of go with me in there.
Is there a color or
it's white
associated? Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'll
white.
just call it the white light, guiding presence. Okay, and so is Sakina's higher self meeting us in this room, or what do you sense is going to happen?
I'm feeling that her higher self is in the room.
Okay, so whenever you feel safe and ready, you can walk into the room and let me know.
So the room is dark. So funny that so often my masculine shows up as dark when we're going into these healing spaces. And I'm definitely sensing that there's like a reverberation of my higher self here as well, of like my wounded child I'm feeling is in here as well.
Okay.
I don't know that I sense a separate, it doesn't feel separate from her higher self, but it's like a reflection.
So as soon as you said that you sense your own wounded child there, I was thinking feels like this is about your wounded child connecting with her.
Yeah,
Her
absolutely.
wounded
'Cause
child.
this, I do feel like this wound that she has is so reflective of, you know, exactly what I experienced, which is probably why we feel this going back so many generations and forward so many generations.
And that's why it triggers you so bad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And I've felt that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so so I'm guessing you're already feeling Sakina's presence, her higher self. How does her Sakina's higher self present to you?
It's feeling disconnected and unseen.
Mm. So that wouldn't be her higher self. That would be like her wounded child.
Maybe it's her wounded child that I'm feeling. Okay, so hold on, let me feel into.
And it's okay if that's all you feel so far.
Let me see if I can feel into her higher self.
And that might come later too. So we'll go in whatever order we need to.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really feeling her wounded, which is, I guess that's why I'm feeling my wounded child here too. Yeah.
Okay, so let's work with that. So can you let her wounded child that's feeling disconnected and unseen and unheard communicate with yours? Or how are they able to interact? How does that look?
You know, mine really isn't feeling like a separate thing that she can interact with, but I'm feeling guided to just bring her what she's desiring, that that feeling of, being seen and being felt and being held, and in exactly what she's feeling in this moment. And yeah, that's the feeling of being guided to bring that to her is like reverberating for me across several layers of things for her and me. So
yes. Okay, so let's reparent that wounded child. What are you going to say? What are you going to do to help her be seen and heard? Help her understand that she is seen and heard no matter how other people behave.
you know what's so funny? Okay. This is where I've had some disconnect, and I think when I'm going to feel into it in a second, but this is really where I've had some disconnect because of my wounded child, right?
Absolutely.
Because I wasn't seen and heard either. And this is really a direct transference of, I'm showing up this way because I didn't know, because he didn't know, and now it's just this, like, right? So we're like breaking a cycle here.
Oh yeah.
And so I have really, I haven't known how to show up, and that's part of me, really part of my work in leaning into that feminine space. And I feel like maybe we're in the masculine. I was called to the masculine maybe because of where my wound began, and because I have been doing it so much from the masculine. And maybe my higher self is feeling like, it really felt, my higher self felt very much in the feminine. And maybe that's kind of,
she's here to hold you.
yeah,
Here to see
to guide that space. So,
Yes. Let that feminine light, that guiding light, see you and feel you and hear you.
you know, I got a really beautiful, I'm being reminded now that it was night before last. I think I get a lot of transmissions between like 3 and 5 a.m. when I kind of come to a half waking state, and I had gotten this really beautiful vision of holding this space and seeing my child and loving her and seeing her and allowing her to be, not trying to fix it or shift her into what I feel is a more balanced state.
So can you bring that to that wounded child that's there in that room?
Yeah, yeah. There was so much of, this is going across so many layers too. There was so much of my parenting expression that was coming from the masculine, and even in the guidance of myself that I had sort of started to work through in a layer with myself of wanting to fix it, wanting to shift it, wanting to, rather than holding and seeing and loving. And yeah.
How does that feel to really embody that holding and seeing and loving as is?
Yeah, and also just connecting to the parts of me that understand where she is, so that it's really an empathetic container. Rather than trying to shift out of it. Because really, gosh, isn't that so much like, that's what we do? We don't want to feel it, right? We just want to fix it.
And that's absolutely why when our kids have the same wound repeated that we had, we can't hold that space. We go into defense mode or attack mode, or, you know, fill in the blank, triggered mode.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there have been so many layers of this coming up in my own healing. And it, you know, I had come across a statement that there's nothing to be fixed or healed, that you're perfect, and that all of the feelings that you're feeling are perfect. And I've started to move away from even the verbiage of healing things and more about bringing it to the light to be held and loved. And yeah, and working on doing that with myself. But yeah, that's the next thing, right? Is bringing that through in my parenting and with my children, allowing them to be seen and allowing their feelings and their expression to come forth exactly as it is, to be loved, because isn't that in itself healing? That's the thing that's healing, right?
It's that space. We talked about it at the beginning. We took some breaths and intentionally created that healing space.
Yeah.
It's not about doing things so much except pressing pause on life. That's
right.
the part. We have to press pause on life and then create this healing space, create this container, and then be open to whatever comes up for the healing and for the awareness and for the, but
you know, I had been really searching for how I can teach these tools, right? How I can guide my children, how I can shift them into the healing space. And of course, the answer is to just go directly into being that space for them as the feminine, right? The of the feminine. And I was having such a hard time because I was parenting so much from my masculine, and, you know, leaning into the feminine, just melting into the feminine and becoming that space that sees that sees the expression of the wounds, that sees the expression of the feelings in their imperfectness, right? Allowing them to be imperfect. That's, of course, that's the answer, of course. You know, there are no, I don't have to teach them tools at this age. I don't have to, I am that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just be.
Yep.
And
I really feel like as you heal this wound in yourself, hers will be softened. It might not be, 100% healed, and you might have to do some more conscious work with her. But starting at the place of healing your own thing that's triggered, it goes a million miles toward our kids' healing. It is bananas.
Yeah. Well, and just feeling, just figuring out how to, seeing how to like hold yourself in the healing, and then embodying that to be that, right? Embodying that to be that space for them. Like,
and if you can't be that for yourself, how can you be that for somebody else?
And I've seen that so many times,
right?
In partnership. Like, okay, if you can't hold yourself, then you're not going to be able to hold me. But I saw, actually, that was part of the layer that I worked through, was I'm seeing that, but it's really because I'm not holding myself. And that's when I went into holding myself more and allowing those things. And then, this is then, the next thing is, yeah.
So let's check in with your own wounded child, that you felt like it was not totally separate, but how is she feeling?
It's funny because I feel like she's doing a happy dance that I'm seeing how it relates to Sakina.
Yes.
Because she wasn't feeling, I think what she was feeling is the process that I've started with her, and she's not feeling as wounded. She's there, but I've gone into several layers recently with myself and made the promise to her yeah, I made the promise to her that I was going to continue to see her, that I was going to continue to feel her, and I asked her to help me with Sakina. And so now she's just doing this happy dance. Like,
we did it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy that happy dance. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The We Did It happy dance. I'm writing that down so you can remember.
And not only that, but part of that transmission that had come through the other night was, and I felt it really strongly last night too, is the beauty that is me exploring this feminine space and having two girls that we can share this womb space in, that we can share and hold this space that allows us to be seen and held, because that really is the desire of the feminine, right? To be seen and to be acknowledged. as the feminine, to be, and there's such a deep wound there, and I've felt it really strongly, and I've been dealing with releasing those wounds of really the masculine not understanding the feminine, not respecting the intuition, not having a reverence
And
for
I'm
what is that feminine power.
add the imbalanced masculine,
Yes,
not
yes,
appreciating.
yes, yes. And so what I've done is I've really been calling in my divine masculine within to support that, to feel that within, to feel that support from the masculine from within. And with my girls, the embodiment of the masculine that they have in their father is not only going to not respect that, but he is going to be repressive of their feminine nature just because of his expression of self and his belief systems. And so being able to create this space where we can be ourselves, where we can be seen and acknowledged and loved and supported in our feminine is just
huge. God, huge is an understatement.
Yeah. And it had been coming to me, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that part of me really melting more into my feminine right now is in seeing myself, seeing my emotions, holding my emotions, expressing my emotions more deeply, and allowing them to flow more. And yeah, I can definitely feel that the more that I melt into that, the more that that's going to heal, and the more that I'm going to be able to do that with my children. And that's just, I'll be able to be and embody more and more of that for them.
Yes, and what's coming to me right now, let's see if we need to work on this. So part of that, allowing your emotions, allowing it to be as is, go to that moment, or any moment when you have yelled at your kids or responded in a way that you didn't want to, and you felt like you did damage.
Mm-hmm.
And can you accept that moment as is? Can you accept that expression, that reaction?
Yeah. I've gotten to the point, and even, and I've been in a really, the past week and a half, well, I guess last week during the week, because I'm not with my kids as much on the weekends. So during the week, we really spiral through a lot of this and work on embodying in a lot of this. And last week, I was in a really beautiful, for the most part, feminine space in my parenting, where I was more in the flow, and I was more, allowing and just surrendered and kind of connected in the process. But I also had 5 days with them, which in my situation, it's without any kind of support system. It's that, it's just me and them. And so it's really intense. And after 4 or 5 days, it starts to get to be too much, and I really need some like time away more than just the evenings to recharge my batteries. And I've learned to really honor that and really make sure that I take that space, especially, because I don't have the same self-care rituals outside, support systems outside that I had before this whole pandemic. So I've been really honoring the space that I need to recharge my batteries. And by the last night that they were here, that I was with them, they were again not going to sleep, you guys. And they were really just not listening, and just really finding it hilarious that they were not listening, and that they were just, they were just really hyper. They were really overtired. And that's been a trigger for me for a long, long time. And I kept asking them. And eventually I was just like,
I did something that my dad used to do, which is just pulling light, like you don't even have to pull hard, but on the tuft of the hair at the bottom of the nape of the neck, it gets your attention really quickly because it hurts. And they both just immediately started crying. And I was like, listen, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to do this to get you guys' attention. I don't know another way right now. And my Sakina was like, you know, it really hurt her feelings. And she was like, I wish I had a different family that was better. And I was like, what do you wish was better? And she's like, I feel like my family is so mean. And I said, how would you like me to approach this differently? What ideas do you have to approach this differently? Because, and she goes, well, you could just come to me and tell me nicely. And I'm like, well, didn't I do that a bunch of times? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, so at what point, you know, and I don't want to do this. I want to find a different way, and I'm seeking different ways. And please, if you have, you know, if any ideas come to you, I'm open to hearing them. But it gets to a certain point, and eventually I'm just like, you know, and so we're able to talk about it at least, and I'm able to, and I'm able to be honest with her and let her know, like, I'm not happy doing this. I don't want to be doing this. And I want a different way too. And we're, you know, and feeling through it together, right?
You're on the same team that way if you're both
Yeah.
looking for a new way. Yeah.
And that's exactly, I've been feeling that so much, because so much of my approach to parenting, and I can see it in their father too, is it had been, and for him it still is, had been about control, making them listen, making them be in line. And there's been so much that I've been feeling into about their sovereign being, their sovereign expression. I don't want them to do things just because I'm telling them to. I don't want them to do anything just because they're told to. And so I've really been feeling into that, and I've really been feeling into relinquishing the need for controlling their behavior, because that's so much a me against you.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want that. I want it to be as a team, and I have no reference points for that. I have no modeling for that whatsoever in my own life.
Well,
So
you do have teamwork. You've had moments of teamwork with somebody, maybe not a parent.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to look outside of that to find.
Well, and that's what I've been kind of trying to bring in, is like, okay, what would it look like to be a teammate with my children?
Yes.
And
Partnership parenting is one way to describe it. And yes, absolutely. It's such a more connected, authentic way to do it, to think of yourself in partnership with your children. I mean, I can't even begin to say how powerful that is. When it's a very seems like a small, you know, semantic whatever shift, but it's huge. It is paradigm shifting, and it's not just you, it's everybody out there thinks that we need to be authoritarian and control our children. And it never works.
Well, I mean, it doesn't feel good to any soul to be controlled. And it's not allowing of our own expression.
End up with a, you know, 20, 30 something child who resents you and doesn't communicate with you and doesn't, you know, so it's So let's move back. Let's go back to your inner child was doing the happy dance.
Mm-hmm.
How is Sakina's inner child, or well, her wounded? You use the words unseen. I can't remember. I didn't write those down. Are you able to reach her higher self now? How is that showing up for you?
I can see her higher self. I'm not connecting to it in the way that I desire to be. Her higher self feels still, so it's interesting because I can see this radiance of expression. I can see this love. I can see this, I can see this silliness, and I can see this, I can see it there. Okay, more of it's coming through now. I think even like, I think that there was like a wound there, like a veil there, that even her higher self was afraid to really allow itself to be seen by me. It took some time.
Right. So her higher self won't be afraid, but the part of her that felt wounded,
Yeah.
blocking
It was
that.
like, there was like a veil. It was like a block that I could feel that was like,
you don't get to see my higher self until we do some of this healing work.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Like, I need to really feel seen. Like, can I allow you to see this part? Is it okay for me to allow you to see all of this? And you know what's interesting? The silly parts and the parts that are having the harder time coming forward are the parts that I've repressed, the parts that I've been triggered by in the past. That's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Hold on, I'm still in my appointment and the mailman hasn't run yet.
So
yeah.
this is what it feels like is your homework, is to connect with her higher self on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And see and notice what parts of her, wounded parts of her, are still in the way of you connecting fully with her higher self. Because I guarantee you, when you connect with her higher self fully and you can have a conversation, it's all forgiveness. It's all, none of it is hiding. None of it is, but
yeah, because I can't have a conversation with her higher self yet.
Yeah. And it can be a process of, it's like, trying to get the feral cat to come near and let you feed it. It takes repetition. It's just like with our, with our children in the physical, in the daily interactions, there's a trust building process that has to come back.
Yeah. And I'm really feeling that, I will be able to feel into the wounded parts of her and bring that seeing,
Yes.
and holding,
Actually,
and unconditional
what
love.
it really is the wounded parts of you that won't let you access her higher self.
Yeah, it's just that reflection. Yeah.
But yeah, it's reflected in her in these certain ways. So yeah. So I think this is your homework, and that's muscle testing strong. That just to continue to work with this, you can go in that very same room.
Yeah.
You've got that room to work on this specific issue. That space is already created and ready. Anytime you're ready to go there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I definitely feel like this has just opened a gateway to, yeah.
Yes. And and the more that you're able to practice connecting with her higher self, the more you will see, It's all love. It's all forgiveness. It's all like, Mom, why are you even worried about that? You know, that kind of, it's so healing
Yeah.
as a mother to go and connect with your children's higher self and really, um, you know, let yourself be healed through this
You know
connection.
what?
I
You know
mean,
what I just realized is I think that this one moment where I feel that fracture from her higher self, because I was so connected to her higher self so deeply until that point, and I feel that that really, but I think that that was such a gift for me because I've recognized how much of a reflection this is for my wounds, but I don't have a reference point to go back to because I'm sure that mine happened at such a young age. And so I really feel that by going through and when I am holding the space for her, when I become that space for her, it just like recognizing that's what it brings, that's when it brings it back for me, is like that kind of, it's through that reflection of her that I'm able to even access it for myself. So
absolutely. Yeah. Earth School gives you wake up calls in so many different ways.
yeah,
And
yeah,
our children are big ways often.
yeah,
Are
yeah,
big
because I haven't been able to access that just going in myself, my younger child, you know, connecting to these wounds. It's so veiled for me, and it was such a young age
Mm,
that I've had a very difficult time really embodying the connection to it. And this way I'm really able to, through her, through her wounds, I'm able to really embody my own. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Thank
Beautiful,
heaven
beautiful.
for this parenting path.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. All right. So you're clear on your homework.
yeah.
And there was something that just came to me.
So we have that rapport process as well that I mean, I'll
Yeah, we
probably
should
go through,
schedule that.
yeah, I'll
Um,
probably go through this like, I mean, I'm thinking next week is coming to me, but
yeah, I was thinking if you do your higher self um work with her
yep,
like
that's
every
what I was
night this
thinking.
week or whatever, you know, when you're you can do it first thing when you wake up or last thing when you go to
I
bed.
already know I'll be doing it in the middle of the night, like 3 to 5 a.m. Like,
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So whenever you do that kind of stuff, um yeah, do that for the next week or so and then let's check in again. And
yeah,
yeah, and then probably that rapport process is going to be even more revealing.
yeah,
And you know, it's my Psych K teacher says, you know, if we have to be willing to unzip first and kind of, you know, it's almost like prepare for surgery. Um, so I feel like this week or so of doing that, connecting with her higher self is going to help you unzip so then
yeah.
you get the most out of the rapport balance.
That's one of the beautiful things about doing the work this way through the layers, because we could do the rapport balance right now, but it wouldn't be nearly as powerful. You know, there would be layers that wouldn't
No,
be.
it's not time yet. Yeah. Yeah. It's not time yet. Just like, yeah, divine timing is we can't always understand it and we can't rush it sometimes.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, perfect.
Thank you
Let's do
so
a
much.
happy dance just for
Yeah.
all this work that you just did and gratitude for the time and space to do it. I wrote down that radiance of expression, love, and silliness that you were able to access from her higher self. So I'll
Yeah.
send you these notes. And I guess we should say goodbye to everybody watching at home. Um, yeah, and I'll include that. Remind me to get that link to the I don't know if we can put it up. I don't know if you can't attach a file on a YouTube video, so we'll have to just link to it somehow.
I think we can just,
Link to that.
when we comment a link, or maybe in the description, we can put a
Yeah.
link to it.
So we'll do that. All right. So adios.